Timothy,
Annie Hoozles.
thank you for coming up to join me in your bright blue collared shirt. Looking fantastic this morning, this Tuesday morning.
Yeah, it was clean.
I feel that so much. All right, well,
Bro.
guess we got to get back into doing this for the people. You ready to get started?
I'm ready for it.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Tech Tuesday. My name is Ben.
I'm Tim.
And we will be getting back to your tech questions. It says we've got 27 comments on the last Tech Tuesday video, so we'll just be barreling down through those. If we don't get to them today, we will try to get to them next week. And for everybody that was bearing with us over these last few weeks of not putting out Tech Tuesday, we thank you for your patience, as it's been busy. I mean, it's always busy around here, but we decided to do that whole offering the kill shot system for $5.99.99 and a whole slew of other things that I know you're going to get into today. So not to make excuses, we're back for the people. We're rocking and rolling this Tuesday morning. But before we jump into the questions, Tim, do you have any thoughts, questions, quibbles, fashion statement tips before we get into this?
Yeah, you see how I dress. I don't have much fashion sense.
You are wearing blue, bright blue.
I'm wearing blue.
Mm-hmm.
This is like a sky Kentucky blue.
It's good.
You know?
Yeah.
But the thing is, suggestions keeps driving us.
Mm-hmm.
You guys make a recommendation, and we do the best to look into it, follow through with it, make a thing. We've built things off suggestions. I mean, it's even our software, our tuning software and stuff like that. It's like somebody's like, I want a heat map in it. Well, gee golly, now we got it.
Yeah.
And it's not from suggestions from me. I just carry the voice up the food chain, but it's suggestions that the people make every time they log in and get in there. And they, you read through about the first 30 troll comments about all the worst thing ever install and blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, oh, a gold mine. Look at this, a heat map. Cool, let's do that.
Yep.
Or you read a YouTube comment. We want to do, it's like, why don't you guys do a power distribution module? There it is.
Whoa. Whoa.
Play with that yet?
I saw some pictures, and that's here. That's wow.
Yeah, we got to do another video about that, by the way.
Yeah, well, this is really just the show of leaked R&D projects.
Well,
honestly,
this is beyond that now. I mean, this thing, it has fuses in it. It adds protection in it. And, we're going to start pushing them out with our system because this is going to give you that clean voltage, that clean signal. It's going to help your system live longer. So if you're trying to tie in another subsystem to ours, this thing right here.
Things to note since the last Tech Tuesday episode.
I'd say zoom in on it. Check it out. Bang.
Bang. You've got Jackpot Hemi, PDMs, and your kill shot system is at $5.99.99. What more do you want? What else do you want?
Very Aces. Very demure, or whatever it is they do.
Okay. All right. Let's get into it. First question comes from Franco2176. He says, hey, fellows, are you coming up with a fix for the Blackjack distributor dropping cylinders randomly? I believe I responded as Aces to this earlier, saying that we were unaware of that being an issue, but we were going to check into it. But I wanted to run it by you as well, Tim, to see if that's anything that you've heard of or anything that he can look into.
Yeah, that's a problem in the past. It's not even a problem. Actually, what it was is that kind of thing is a cranking voltage. If your cranking voltage takes a hard dive, you'll pick up a misfire. Weird stuff. So what we did was we just moved the threshold around a little bit so that even if you are dead cranking that thing nearly to the point of almost trying to damage something, you're not going to encounter the same stuff. So it's kind of like I don't know. It really just improves the gain on the signal strength. So normally with a VR or a magnetic distributor, the faster it spins, the more voltage it makes. So we just dropped that threshold down quite considerably to get rid of any kind of a probability of that issue. We haven't had that issue, and all of a sudden it just kind of popped up, and we're like, huh, that's funny. Then we just sorted it out. So
is that something that he can do just by updating firmware?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The new stuff has all that, and it's a lot of other features and functions in there that we're kind of going into, product development stuff. But also, if you're getting the new firmware, check out our new software too. It's amazing. A lot of people put a lot of effort into it. A lot of people made suggestions so that we could drive it into something that is really nice tuning software.
I didn't want you to have to read a whole lot, so I'm giving you an easy one right down here.
He knows how I am with words. I'd like to see a low-pressure shutoff tune / wire. I think an internal state for a low-pressure, engine off situation will be pretty good in the future. Because we're also looking at doing stuff like different warnings and whatnot, so that if you have a low pressure sensor issue or low or high temperature issue or what have you not, give a little pop up. That's something we're looking into and going to see how feasible it is to do in our interfaces. It may be a future interface thing, but yeah, safety.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that
safeties?
If with the fuel pressure sensor kit that we offer, it allows you to do measure for oil pressure, fuel pressure, and boost pressure, or it's an or, not you do one of the three. So my question would be, off of this, is there a way that in the future we'll be able to measure multiple, like fuel pressure and oil pressure, or all three, even including boost pressure, or is that still going to be something that they'll have to kind of pick and choose what they feel like is the most important?
On the lower level systems, we only have one sensor wire input, but the future stuff, if we do like a CAN module or something like that, then we can have a bunch of interesting array of IOs we can do. So whether it's a 5 or a 12 volt or a frequency or a resistance or what have you not.
That makes sense.
That's something as well that might be, if we're going to do that, that's how we would accomplish that without having to redesign the ECU with the end user incurring the cost of us having to develop that.
Question 3 by Garrett Rathbone. Any thoughts about doing a user-submitted tuning tips and tricks blogish section? Good grief. User-submitted tuning tips and tricks blogish section on your website. The Facebook group is great, but after about a day, the information is hard to find. Yeah, I don't see why we couldn't do something like that. The other thing we've tried to do in the past is do kind of like snippets, shorts of Tech Tuesday of certain things that we've come together and talked about, or we've also done tech shorts that cover little basic tuning or tips and tricks of the system. But what we can do is make a little section on the website. If the problem is, if there is any problem at all, is having the time to do so. So, but if we can do that, I don't see why. If we do have the time to do it, I don't see why.
You know how much I would love to be able to write a tech article and throw into an ACES blog.
Yeah,
or some kind of a on our website forum situation, because we could put so many. It's like a Reddit.
Yeah.
You know. And if we do that, we do need our Reddit trolls to move from Reddit to the ACES website just to get good clarity. You can't tell. I love a good troll. I love it because some of the stuff is made out of love, and some of it's just like, I never even bought your system, but I'm just going to do this here.
Well, I do know that having, at least from an advanced tuning software perspective, having more tips and tricks, having sensor calibration tutorials, having little things like that are going to make it easier for people to get into their system and change things around and be more on the tuning side of it instead of just sitting back and letting the self-learning take over. But I will say with that, what would you prefer that to look like? Would you like it to be a blog, like a tech document blog, or a or post section, or would you like it to be in video format? I don't know. Just let us know in the comments, and we can try to look into that. I guess the main thing is Tech Tuesday's kind of the only avenue for this kind of thing, as well as the tech shorts
for now.
But we can look for other opportunities to do that as well.
What if we developed our own social media website and we called it ACES Space? And it was really super cool.
Are you trying to make a play off of MySpace?
What's that?
I am.
Wow.
I know that I am younger, but
How
I know what
old are you?
MySpace is. I know what MySpace is. All right. I'll let you look at this name.
He's got one gray.
I do not have any gray hair. Don't. I know I don't.
Right there.
Here we go.
You want to get it for you? Dr. Art Shot. What is that?
That's
Oh, God. It's Dr. Art's Hot Rod Rehab. I'm very sorry for
Dr. Art's Hot Rod Rehab. That's awesome.
Just became a dealer this week for Aces.
Very cool.
Looking
Welcome.
to be an authorized tuner. Would love to have merch swag for sale on my website. Neat. Authorized tuner thing, that's something you have to deal with me on. Shoot an email over to your dealer handler or shoot it over to tech support at acesefi.com and make sure to put in the subject thing, authorized tuner request. And there's also a form on the website you'll have to fill out, which populates a whole different spreadsheet for me.
Yeah.
But we can start the communication. I can see where you're at with the whole thing. And, you know, if you're fairly familiar with most tuning stuff and got a good grasp on the thing, we can talk about that.
Yep.
You can tell by our website, I don't just approve anybody.
Yeah, that's true. But also alongside with the merch swag setup, you can also send us an email. But I can lovely put up a little picture that I haven't taken yet, but we'll take a picture of for our new Aces shirts that we're coming out with, a line that'll look similar to what's on your screen right now. But also there's other things like banners and hats and other things that you can pick up if you'd like. But we can be in touch about that as well. But like Tim said, best thing probably right out the gate is an email. Or the new thing, the chat button feature on our website, which we talked about in the previous Tech Tuesday, but you can go there as well. Landon Custom Classics says, I just got the Aces High Roller Pro ignition setup and has no spark and no power to the coil. Been trying to get help and can't get a hold of anyone that will help me. Well, Landon, we're here to help you.
Yeah. Well, that's weird. No spark on a high roller.
Yeah. I'm not really sure about that.
I don't blow those up very much.
I'm assuming probably running on a carburetor, but it might be something else. No spark and no power to the coil. I'd be curious to know when you purchased said system and what firmware you have. But outside of that, I would probably look into emailing tech support at acesefi.com
with pictures.
And they can either give you some advice or we can start an RMA process for you to get it here, test it, and replace anything that might be not properly working. I'd also be interested to know if it was working and now is not working, because that can also point one way or the other. But not super familiar with anything like that happening just out of the box for a high roller.
A broken high roller, that's got to be weird.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the inside of one of those things. They were built.
Yeah.
I've had other similar systems that, you know, it's the difference between a Casio calculator watch and then a TI-85 overclock graphing calculator. You know what I mean? There's a whole difference there.
Yeah. And
that's both of those are dated references. Jeez.
Well, and the last thing I'll say with regards to it being an older system, if it is an older system, also go in and see if you can update that firmware. It's a typical, pretty easy fix. There's a video on our website that shows you exactly how to update any firmware. Once you're up and running, I know we've said this in the past. For anybody else listening to this, you do not have to update your firmware when you are satisfied with your system. If there's something coming in an update that you want to use, you can, but you don't have to. So,
Second side of that, if you're having a weird problem and it doesn't make any sense and your install is solid, try to update the firmware. Because during the firmware update process, low voltages and all kinds of weird stuff can really affect it. If you're doing a fresh build and you just got it out the box and you want the newest, freshest thing and you're still having a weird problem, go through your handheld and force that update again into the ECU. I've had, through experiments, tested on extremely low voltage on data transfer and all that whatnot, and actually managed to get it to take it and then do the wizard and then have like weird sensor problems, and then with the good voltage I forced the update again, run the wizard, it's fine. I've corrupted my own firmware sometimes.
Yes. But in the long run, I would definitely say email tech support at acesfi.com or send us a message on the chat button on our website. We'd be happy to try and take care of that for you. Here you go.
That's a lot of words.
That's a lot of words. Here, I'll read it for you. You don't have to worry about it. Recently bought your kill shot top end kit for my 1984 Corvette, getting rid of the crossfire injection system, or as I've heard being referenced as the ceasefire. I've installed
That's
new
accurate.
air intake manifold and have your EFI sitting on it waiting till I come by and pick up a new pump set from you guys as well. Anyway, my question would be a follow-up from another person's question. I will soon be tearing down my Corvette's 350 small block Chevy and rebuilding it from the ground up. I'm talking machine over the whole block, reboard, new pistons as needed, bigger cam heads, etc., etc. Would you guys recommend to break in the then new engine with the settings learned from running it before the rebuilding, or would you say break it in the new engine off of a regular carburetor first before reconnecting the kill shot back up to it?
Go with what you know. When it comes to breaking in a small block, if you know that carburetor's already set up for a small block, send it. Especially if you're waiting on a fuel system. But if you already got a good dynamite base tune for that, you don't have to worry about the getting it started up and going through all the stuff while you're trying to get it up to temperature, and then holding that thing for 30 minutes or whatever it is at several thousand RPMs, because it's going to be trying to self-learn and correct things and all that. So it's going to be more a little bit more of a headache if it's not already got a pretty solid tune in it. Just go with what you know. I know it's counterintuitive for a dude that does the EFI all day to say, like, hey, if you got a carburetor just floating around, just throw it on there. You can still break it on the kill shot. I've done it several times. I've never had any issues, but go with what you're most comfortable with.
I definitely say try not to, like you were pointing out before, you can turn off the self-learn feature. So if you do have a base tune for that system, turn off self-learn and fuel loop. Just disable that. You can just go into tuning, fuel, and I believe it's an advanced at the top, and then you can just either double tap on a 7-inch or a 5-inch. You can just hit it, and there's a little button at the top, or not top, bottom right corner that you can hit. Anyway, so you can disable those things, and once it's disabled, then I would say you could break it in with that kill shot system. But don't try to do a self-learning feature on breaking in a brand new engine. A
classic truck federation cats. I kind of feel like that's a big name or something. It's got some good vibes to it. Let's see what they got going on. Hey, you should start recording.
Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me.
We've done that here.
Yes.
We've got 20 minutes into it. Like,
no, don't.
I didn't do it.
We are fine.
I'm running a Jackpot on my 534L60E. I'm on a second transmission in the truck. They both have the exact same shifting issue. The 1-2 is fine. The 2-3 acts like it wants to hit third, but drops down to first and hits second really high in the RPMs, no matter how much throttle. Does the same for third and then hits fourth normal. Any help would be really appreciated. I've tried everything I know. I kind of wonder if you're not losing vehicle speed sensor or something like that. If you can, with your laptop, datalog us the trans parameters and send it in. We'd like to see what you're talking about in datalogging. And a copy of your tune file if you don't mind. Tech support, acesefi.com. There's a couple of us back there, so honestly, it's tune file stuff, so it'll probably be me staring at it. But we actually, that's quite a piece of my day is just reviewing datalogs for folks. Just hey, it's too much fuel, take some out of the table, whatever. I can't tune it for you, but I can give you some advice. That's an interesting thing. I've never had that happen. The only thing I've had happen with weird shifting stuff on our Aces is a hard second gear. What I found out was actually just a valve body was smoked, but swap that. And if y'all watch some of the videos, you realize that the Blazer transmission was broken for a while. So that was me. I was testing some
It has
stuff.
all of maybe second gear.
Yeah, no, it's good now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I fixed all that,
Okay.
but that was from me launching it repeatedly and breaking things. Somebody's got to break it, right?
Well,
that's my suggestion. I'd like to see that in
Yeah.
the data log. That's a weird one. I've never had that. I don't wonder if there's something dropping out or some weird. It could be anything.
Yeah.
Could be TPS being hairy. Could be a VSS dropping out.
Yep.
Could be a lot of things.
Andy Martinez 5528 says, I haven't seen anything on adding nitrous to the Jackpot system. Is that a possibility with the Jackpot system?
You mean nitrous? Or are you talking about a wet shot or a dry shot?
Some more NOS.
Ugh, careful with that.
Sorry, I know. Anyway, continue.
Careful with that. Not even the cringe factor.
No, I know.
The nitrous on our system, we're not doing dry progressive shots yet. Because that's a whole strategy we'd have to build into it. If you got a dry system and you want us to add fuel and then make that progressive as it goes, that's something that I'm interested in looking into, but we need to make sure we're handling everything else correct before we get into the play things as it goes. If you're doing a wet shot, it'll step nitrous down appropriately. I mean, it'll retard the timing for the signal in, and you set that up. But yeah, we don't have any progressive control yet.
Cool.
More interested in seeing boost control first.
Yep.
Hey, Ben, I don't know if you've seen it, but we got this new PDM. Look at this thing.
Guys, I think Tim likes the new PDM. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that.
It's really cool. Did you know that this thing right here, if you've got a switch 12-volt dirty source, that inside of this thing, it doesn't have electromechanical relays or anything. It's really streamlined inside. It's going to clean up that voltage a bit. Even if this isn't even that clean or that isn't even that clean, it's going to do a lot. And then you have fuses up here that if you see how they're laid out in F1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if your fuel pump decides to eat itself, right here, the V pump, if it decides to eat itself and it pops that fuse, it doesn't take everything else out with it. Then you're just like, oh no, my fuel pump has packed it up and the fuse popped. And I put another fuse in, it pops again. You're not going to destroy everything else in your system. Love it. I tried what Tim said regarding the data logger. Neat. That's JM 13210. But as soon as I try to go back to home screen, the pop-up window comes up stating, it's recording. Do you want to go back and exit? Forcing me to stop the log unless I stay in the window. Interesting. I've never had that. This isn't a handheld, right?
I imagine so.
Yeah. I'll look into that a little bit. If I discover something up, I'll hit a reply on there for you. Because it used to be you just go to log, set your parameters, hit log, and just go back to monitoring all your data. You just got to make sure to turn the logging off when you're done. Otherwise, it'll wipe out the data on the handheld. Now, we may have added that in. It's giving you a warning, but it may not be actually turning it off. But that's something I need to look into.
All right. He says, I daily drive my Sonoma running the Jackpot Pro. With no problems. But when I do have a problem, they tend to be hot rod problems. Learning how to use your advanced tuning software. With that, I would like to ask, when using the Learn Feel table to tune the VE table, which one should I use as my reference point? Bank 1 or Bank 2? Also, is there a way to scale the main VE table to the same as the Learn table? In my opinion, that would make tuning a bit more simple to tune. Also, thank you, Tim, for answering my data log question, given that my 7-inch handheld acts as my dash. Fair enough.
Yeah. So, the main VE table and the learning table are two different strategies. So, because of how much information we're using, it's we're probably not going to scale that table anytime soon. Now, when we beef up maybe some RAM or a bigger processor, we use a big old Hoscat of a processor already, but there's a lot going on back there. But yeah, you're right about actually tuning the VE table. I use some of that to fill in some values that I can't get to in the main table sometimes when I'm doing something real interesting. When it comes to Bank 1 or Bank 2, depending, because Bank 1 is your driver side O2 sensor, Bank 2 is your passenger side O2 sensor. So they're separate tables, take the average, and then that's how they view it. That's looking at both tables at the same time. Big fan, if I'm doing some custom tuning and I'm trying to get the average, what I'll do is I'll force it into Bank 1. I'll use one O2 sensor and leave the other one alone, and I'll do all my base tuning off of that before I turn the learning back on and look at any kind of differences. Because that may come down to you got a weak plug, you got a weird injector, or you got a tiny exhaust leak, and those things will affect the overall tune. So pick your favorite side and go with it, basically.
Pick your poison. Rickster5155 got the Factory 5 Racing AC Cobra replica running pretty good now. Shout out to Willie at Dirty Dirty Racing for the tuning help. Great experience, start to finish. His weekly suggestion, no problem, Rick, as I was digging more into the PC software side of things, I found myself not knowing exactly what some settings do. It would be very helpful if each setting or page had a help or information section explaining what the setting did.
Yeah, there's a question mark at the top. You give some definitions. We haven't filled in all those yet, but we will have those. Most of them have a definition, so if you give it a little click. But if you are using that, it may just be you need a more in-depth explanation translated from nerd to not as nerdy, most likely. Also, I don't know if you've seen his Factory 5 Cobra replica on the internet. It's nice.
Nice. Like,
kudos to that. I think it's dope.
I will say, we have talked about it before in previous Tech Tuesdays, but I would really look forward to you actually running a class for the advanced tuning software. I know that's coming. I know that'll eventually be here. I'm just saying it'll be awesome when it is here, because that is going to set the bar way up here when it comes to the knowledge base of this advanced tuning software, because it's different. Even though there's things in there that can be traced around to other tuning softwares, HP, the other companies that we won't get into, but it is different. It's definitely different than anybody else. So I'm excited for when that finally comes around.
Brian Stillwell, Tim, when you were mentioning that selecting the different cam profiles slightly changes some of the other parameters, is this only in initial wizard setup, or does it occur when you pick different cam profiles in the handheld software after the fact? During initial setup, if you go in there and you go into tuning software and you select a different cam, you're just reading a different table, like some of the airflow and different small things. I've noticed they just don't change. I mean, that's something we can do, but honestly, if you're in the software and you're making a cam selection, you don't need to follow the rest, because you're in there tuning already, trying to make some weird custom setup work. So we didn't view it that important to make hard changes, because you may have already adjusted a lot of the stuff and you're like, okay, my table offset's so far up, I'll just switch it to the next cam profile up because it's going to suit it a little bit better. But if you already got your airflow and everything else dialed in, when you make that selection in the tuning software, it just wrecks all the stuff you already done. So we didn't want to do that. Some people argue that. I think it's better to do that, because if you're doing the initial setup in the handheld, you're like, hey, this is what I think I'm running, and then later it's real custom. So thanks, Brian.
Sounds good.
You know he runs a dyno, right?
Oh, yeah. Tanya Petero. I shut the power off to the system to save draw on the battery. How long will the Jackpot LS Pro hold memory? Always.
Yeah, the only time I've ever seen it do like a RAM dump is in a situation of like sustained super low voltage, and it'll give it a headache. But a lot of times, just for good measure, if you
that will just fry the ECU.
No, it doesn't always.
If it's just a very low.
You ever disconnected an electronic device and then reverse polarity to do a dump on it, or
I can't say that I have.
Pulled the side cover off your gaming rig and then pulled the battery out of the CMOS to reset all that?
No.
lack of nerdness.
No, I can't say that I have.
As
But normally, like if you shut the power off or even unplug the ECU, it's still going to hold everything in there that you had saved in there.
I've got an ECU in the back that I've had for just under 2 years at this point that has the same tune on it it's had for 2 years. And that was one of the first Deuces Wilds.
Yeah.
When I put that one on the Cousin Eddie, the camper. But yeah, the only time I've ever seen it do that is weird low voltage trickery that's created a lot more headache than anything. That's where you get to the point you're corrupting firmware and doing other weird stuff. But always retain a copy of your tune file. You got a solid tune on your Jackpot, save that thing on your handheld. Just in case that happens, you can always force your firmware back onto the ECU and then force your tune file on there and clean that up. Not saying that's an issue, but it's always a good safety precaution just to keep that in the back of your mind. So, yeah, I've got a few of my desk drawer tunes on them that's just been sitting there chilling. No problem. Or Rodney keeps a few floating around the shop just for R&D and testing and troubleshooting with other people's systems.
I really like this name. Out of all the names that have come by, there are a few that stand out, but this one is pretty good.
1990 Bad Doggy.
Yeah, somebody came up with that. And that's awesome.
I got my nickname from a junkyard, weirdly enough. On the Jackpot, I cannot data log in the handheld and go back to the home screen. Message pops up and says, "Are you sure you want to go back and stop log?" So it's stuck login screen. I cannot go to monitor while logging.
This is something we got to look into.
That's a new thing.
We got to figure this out. This is the second time.
Well, I never do data logging on the handheld, dude.
Yeah. Okay. We will look into this. Absolutely.
Yeah. We'll see if we can make it better for you.
Yeah.
But, generally if you're doing that, it's generally better to data log with your laptop anyways, because you can really get a bigger sample of what you're looking at. And if you're sending somebody like your tuner or us or whoever a data log, we're going to win a lot more information on average than you're going to get out of the handheld. Handheld's good for, if you're just trying to get your fuel corrected or something like that. But if you got some weird stuff happening, you're trying to see trans temperature, speed, pressure, or whatever like that, you probably want to use a laptop anyways.
Yeah.
Interesting though. That's they must have added that in. That just snuck around me.
Next question is Lewis Corral 8079. I would love to see some help with parameters for the 4L80 Jackpot with trans control. Would like some more pep out of it. Some pep, Tim.
I'm all out.
Nice.
So, yeah, that just comes down to trans tuning. I mean, you can adjust the duty cycle of the line pressure and all that whatnot, and give it a good or harder, firmer shift. Also, you can adjust shift points, a few other parameters as well. There's a lot of offset stuff, but yeah, after we do the actual start doing the tuning software videos, we're going to be doing different weird stuff in there too. We're going to go into electronic throttle body and the transmission tuning as well. So how to get the shift a bit better and harder. I got to get a piece of junk off my dyno first so I can put the blazer back on there now that I fixed the transmission to go through. So whenever I make these tuning software changes, I can show the dyno graph about what the things are, which is extremely important when it comes to transmission tuning for showing the torque values.
Yeah.
How fast it shifts, how hard it hits. If you're messing with the timing parameters between shifts, what that looks like in the graph, so on and so forth. Yep. So I think I'm just going to cut the engine out of that car and put it on a run stand.
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Jam again says, also, when can we expect to see that fuel level gauge on the handheld? Eventually. Yes.
Well, the issue we run into is we get sidetracked with other things that are kind of higher priority. I know we got the structure for it to be there. We just literally need to finish up the project on the graph and what to do with that data, and then throw it in there. So that's something you should see soon. I know we've been saying that a lot, but we'd have to reassign somebody to finish that up.
Yep.
I'm excited to make a little video about just doing fuel level stuff. I want to get a bunch of sending units and show the people how to set it up. Maybe I'll do like a clear container and put the level sending unit in there and it'll look really cool.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I think that'd be fun.
Yep. Dawn Daughter 24, going to be exciting to see Nicky Bobby do the Aces install. He was impressed with the unboxing, and so was I. Thanks. Yeah, I saw a bit of that video.
Where did we get that guy? Where did we
Nick
get
Nick Taylor?
Yeah. Where did we get him though? And what system was it?
He's got a multi-port setup.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yikes.
Oh, look.
I forgot.
It's a horrible thing when you see yourself on the internet.
Dude. He does have a multi-port injection setup. I forgot about that. Anyway.
Sweet.
He's got that big block Chevy.
The only critical thing on those multi-ports is you got to make sure you put the distributor in just about right.
Yep.
Which,
Hall effect, baby.
Yeah, you get that thing lined up good and you fire it up. Adjust accordingly. You're looking good.
AR420 says, thank you for the video. Learn something new every time. Appreciate the effort involved. Struggling with the fuel-rich condition on my project, but I'm learning something with every video and standing closer to the light at the end of the tunnel. Just have to stay positive. Sure, running fuel-rich condition. Is it just running like period, or is it on hot or cold start or anything like that? But there are a few things that even in the handheld that you can change for that as well.
I did an E85 tune just out of the handheld here recently, which was a hoot.
It is. It smells a lot nicer too.
Yeah, it does.
I'm kidding. Sorry.
It's like I rolled up to the tailgate party pre-gamed.
No. What are all the fuel, just for the people, all of the different things you can change for running conditions or fuel in the handheld? Maybe not all of them, but some of the main ones. I know
your acceleration correction's a huge one for any flat spots on tip in. Your fuel table offset is your main one.
Yes.
It's like being able to change your main jets and your carburetor on the fly.
Yeah.
Across the board, so you're not adjusting just portions of your table, you're adjusting the whole thing up and down.
Yeah.
And what I like to do on a handheld tune is like to get it close with the learning off, make sure it's comping and reading about 100 on the loop comp percent, and then I'll let it learn from there, because then you're going to be learning a few percent and you're not going to be running bunches of percent. If you run into a situation that you're having it like your O2 sensors getting washed down, you can change the parameters for how much learning and how much loop that it does as well. Right now, I think they come set at 50 or 70 or something.
Yep.
You can change that down to 10. That way, if your O2 sensor ain't reading correct, or you suspect that it is not, you can set a limiter on that so that when you're trying to get everything dialed in, and say your O2 sensor gets wet on a startup because you hit the wrong button, then it's not going to be adding 70% fuel. It's going to be adding like 10.
Yeah.
So just, there's a lot of little things I try to go through in some videos, but I just never actually include everything in the same one. I should probably do that, but I'll probably do that in this next video that I'm kind of doing with this, full house situation. Unknown territory, really.
I know we're running out of time for this Tech Tuesday. It's going to be running a bit longer as well, but to the people's enjoyment. And again, you can scroll through and find the questions that you'd like to listen to if you don't want to watch the whole video, or obviously if you go down to the description, you can click on them as well. But this last one is from Big Block 406TA. He is also saying that you cannot view any other screen while data logging in the handheld. We will definitely be looking into that.
Yeah.
Second thing, is the BAP sensor part of the ECU, or is it replicable? I ask because mine glitches. The ECU is far from the RF interface. I'm assuming from what? No, never mind. I was thinking royal flush, but the ECU is, never mind. It will glitch out and just sitting with the key on. If I'm idling or anytime I am off the gas, there's no change when it glitches. But if I'm on the gas or a little or a lot when it glitches, it actually changes the injector pulse width accordingly as the barometer changed. Fortunately, it happens pretty quick, usually less than a second, so there's no big changes, just a little bubble in the motor.
Blurp. So, any hoozles, the BAP sensor going erratic on that, weird. It's not going to be an RF thing. It may be actually the sensor on the ECU itself having some kind of an oddball voltage thing. Or it could be out of its limits or something like that. But the neat thing is when you see that pulse width change, momentarily pulse width change, it goes from reading atmospheric, so it sees a high delta in the information, and then it says, hey, this isn't correct, let's just go back to reading off the map. Because it uses the map as a fallback. The barometric thing is just for altitude compensation. And if it's not working, it goes off the map anyways. But it reads a very small amount of parameters in the background when it's on. That BAP sensor actually having an oddball issue with any kind of voltage, that I'm assuming it's just faulting out. This could be a bad BAP sensor. It's on board the ECU, so it's actually soldered onto the ECU. That's what the little port on the back of the ECU is. There's a little port with a filter in it, and that's where that sensor lies. So
if
might just be a bad sensor.
Yep, might be a bad sensor. You could also see, as we've said a couple of times on this episode, to update the firmware and see if anything changes. If not, that might be an RMA type setup, just to see if we can.
We ain't scared of it.
Yeah, look into it, see if there's anything that we can change, possibly replace your ECU if needed. So, yeah, absolutely. Awesome. A lot of questions. Longer episode again.
That's why we do it, is for the people.
We do it for the people. So, and Tim, as always, I really appreciate you coming up here, taking your time from the back to answer these questions with me, and to bring Tech Tuesday back to the YouTube interwebs.
It's been busy. It's been so busy. Oh, my gosh.
But it's good. It's a good thing. But we'll get back to it. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of Tech Tuesday. If you liked it, please feel free to leave a like down below. If you have any questions about ACES EFI or EFI in general, please feel free to leave a comment down below, and we'd love to get to it in our next Tech Tuesday episode. Or if there's anybody else that you know, or friends, family that is going to be switching to EFI, so bring them our way. We'd love to talk to them. We'd love to give some advice. But yeah, thank you again, everybody else, for tuning in. And until next time, we will see all of you in the next video. Bye for now.
Bye now.
Oh man, it's been like
I can't remember.
He commented about this 2 weeks ago. It's been about 2 weeks since I've seen the video.
The same. I watched the video too. I just don't remember what we got him. Recently, I've been testing our Full House stuff. And
I believe
I Can Fly.
I believe it's he did get an intake, so I don't believe it was a TBI setup.
Well, the install must have went really good because I didn't talk to the guy.
I don't even know if he's installed it yet.
Yeah, maybe.
Just for kicks and giggles, I need to look this up. I'm not going to be able to live with myself.
But anyways, so I'm testing a system that we already have that we're looking into. It's the Full House TBI, and I got that warm feeling whenever I open, because like normally when I'm testing stuff, I'm using the same throttle bodies I've had floating around for a year or so that I've modified or beat up or what have you not. And I run into a thing. I got to open a box on a fresh throttle body, and I forgot what that feeling was like. I was like, oh, man, this thing is clean. The machine work is great. There's no scratches on it. It's not mismatched color fuel bowls. I've got a throttle body that's 3 different colors. And it's a kill shot. classic. But it's like got a gold fuel bowl. The side where the electrical cover is silver. The throttle body is black, and it says Royal Flush on it.
Fair enough.
Dude, that's the one. I literally built that out of scraps in the back. I just had a bunch of stuff on the table, and I'm like, hey, I want to make a real custom one.
He's got a multi-port setup.
Oh, yeah.